Welcome to Vodcast number 3 of the Southeast Asia Sales Competition project. And with me today, I have...
Hi, my name is Alex Bauer. I'm from the University of Applied Sciences, Wiener Neustadt in Austria. Thank you for having me.
And what would you like to talk about today, Alex?
Well, we speak again about the evaluation of the sales competitions, and the last time we spoke about lecturers' perspective, and today I would like to speak about students' perspective. And again, I've prepared a couple of slides for that.
Let's have a look.
So just give me a quick second. And can you see the two logos of our two universities?
I can, yes.
Yeah, because I just want to point out, so the evaluation is, of course, as everything in the SEASAC, it's always an European university plus a Southeast Asian university. And the evaluation is done by the Poli Batam in Indonesia and the University of Applied Sciences in Neustadt in Austria. And what we did is we did quantitative research among the students who participated the first Southeast Asian sales competition in Thailand. And the full research is, of course, also available, but I just wanted to point out a few questions we found very interesting. And of course, Colin, to say, we're not criticizing it, we're analyzing it.
Yeah, it's a European way, isn't it, to ask sort of difficult questions and then reflect on those questions. So it's never inferred to be a criticism to anybody who either participated or taught in this competition.
Exactly. So the first Southeast Asian sales competition was really a huge success and everyone enjoyed it. And our task is just we look at it and we see, is there something we can do better for the future? And so that's why we asked a couple of questions. And the first questions we asked the students were about the case study. So one of the questions was the case study understandable? And 65.9% of the students said, yes, I fully agree or agree to that. However, there's still an amount of students who partly agreed or even disagreed about that the case study was understandable. So that's what was the student replied on this.
So it's an interesting question there, whether they were given either enough time to study the case study or enough detail, or whether as part of the competition rules, we don't want them to have too much time, or competition philosophy, I should say, too much time to understand it in order to test their critical understanding facility.
Exactly, because it's all about having a real life setting. And the question is, in a real life setting, how much time do you have to understand a case? And that leads to the second and the third question we had here. So did the case study provide full information? Again, so 47.1% said, I fully agree or agree that there was full information. The rest of the students said, not really full information. Also for us to discuss.
Again, you're absolutely right. Whether more information should be given or whether it would be too much information in terms of information overload. In a real life scenario, you would have enough information to go into a meeting, but you're never going to understand all the detail because that's part of the competition, isn't it? To try and understand the detail, the situation question from the buyer. Yes. Exactly.
And Colin, you said already before about the time, and that was actually the third question connected to the case. I, as a student, had enough time to prepare the case. So 29.4% students agreed or fully agreed, yes, I had enough time. The rest said, I would like to have more time. So this is also a question to us for reflection. How much information do we want to give for the next sales competition? And how much time should there be? So, of course, the time element is a very crucial element that, of course, you should get not unlimited time to prepare yourself. So you should work under time pressure there. So the question is for us, for the next sales competition, how much time should we give? So what is realistic?
That's very interesting.
And I just move on to the next. So the next section is all about the buyer. So the buyer, just to remind ourselves, the buyers came from the local industry. So these are real business women and businessmen who work in the local industry, and they posed as a buyer. And the buyer, they of course, they shouldn't play a role. So they should really behave naturally. But of course, they also receive the case, and they receive the case, what is it about, so what will the student ask them, what information they should provide. And so the buyer gets a briefing. And we heard in our last Vodcast that the lecturers had the impression that the buyers were not all briefed in the same way and they didn't act consistently. And the students actually gave to this question, the buyers seemed well prepared to me. 41.1% said, I agree. A lot of students were neutral or only partly agreed, what we can see down here. Which means the buyer briefing might be an issue for the future.
That's an interesting subject to talk about in the future. Yes, absolutely.
And also next slide is also linked to the buyer. So the buyer understood my questions. And Colin, you asked me a very important question before.
Was it to do with the understanding of English? That was the question I asked.
Yeah, so of course, I said we're not sure. So we're not sure if it was about the English or was it about the content. However, the second or the next question we have here, the buyer was able to provide background information to the students. So 29.4% only agreed with that the buyer was able to provide background information. That gives us an indication, a hint that perhaps the buyer didn't understand the questions because of the pre-briefing, because of the background information which was available, and probably not because of the English. But of course, we should ask this question again in the next sales competition. Is it connected with the language or is it connected with the background? Here, I would strongly assume that it was probably because of the briefing of the buyers, which gave a difficult time for the buyer to give some additional background information and to understand the question of the students. And the next section is about the methods taught in class. So we asked already lecturers a lot about which methods did you use in class and which methods did the student use in the sales competition. And so we were quite happy to see that 70% of the students said already, yes, I was able to use methods taught in class in the sales competition.
It's very encouraging to see the teaching is effective.
Exactly, so it reflects that the training actually brings something. There's one more thing we could actually probably look into. How can we give students a little bit more confidence? That comes to the next one, the opening of the sales talk. Of course, the opening is very crucial. And 52.9% of the students said, my opening of the sales talk went well. So we thought perhaps we could increase the number because in general, what we see later, a lot of students said, yes, my sales competences, my sales skills increased. But some of them still feel that the sales talk, the opening, could go better. So we probably could look into this in the future as well.
It probably needs more refinement and practice and confidence, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and probably also to give an outlook, what is a good opening of a sales talk? So how to open a sales talk and what does it mean to open a sales talk? So that could be a little bit more focus here. And which is also a nice result is I use professional question techniques to find out the pain points of the buyer. So 70% said, yes, I use these question techniques. And that was, of course, a focus in the training, that in the sales trainings, a lot of the lecturers, they focus on spin selling. And that's, of course, reflects here that 70% said, yes, I use these techniques to find out the pain points. So good result here.
Very good result, and it shows that particular part of the training and the lectures are being listened to by the students, which is very good, very encouraging.
Exactly. So I felt well prepared for the sales competition. So 52.9% of the students said, I agree. Well, I think that could be more investigated in the future. So perhaps if I look back when I was a student, I always thought, yeah, I'm prepared, but I could have done better, or I could have prepared more. So, and I think we have to research here a little bit closer if it's an understatement that they were well prepared, but they wanted to say, look, I could be prepared better, I could have studied more, I could have trained more, or if it's really that we should prepare them more. So I think that's up to the lecturers to check with the students as well.
Yeah, check the understanding so that they feel more confident before going into the sales competition, you mean?
Yes. Exactly. And this question is, of course, a little bit very wide open. So what is well prepared? So that's, of course, it's a very open question, basically. And I was very happy to see that one. So I was able to improve my sales skills, 88.2%. Yeah, wow. So, which means most students actually said, yes, I was able to improve my sales skills. And this is all what a sales competition is about. Yeah. So you should train for a sales competition, and during a sales competition, you should put this into practice, into a real life scenario. And at the end of the day, if you come out and say, yes, I was able to improve my sales skills, good result. I would say our job is done, yeah?
Yeah, very good result.
And the next thing is also I was able to build a good connection with the buyer. So very good result here as well, yeah? And that actually brought me a little bit to question the previous question where we asked, have you been well prepared for the sales competition? So half of the students said, yes, I was well prepared. The other half said, I could have been prepared better. However, 88.2% said I was able to build a good connection with the buyer. And also 88% before said I could improve my sales skills. So that's actually where I thought myself, that's a little bit a question mark for me.
Yeah.
So
it's a bit contradictory, the two different results. So yes, perhaps more investigation on what they meant by good connection. The word good is a difficult word in academic terms. Do they mean an effective connection? Do they mean build a strong rapport? What does good really mean?
Yeah, exactly. That was the first SEASAC for the questionnaire was a little bit too open. So we could also refine that from the evaluation side. So, and we like this one. So we talked about this in our Vodcast number 1, that the attitude towards a job in sales actually improves. So, and we could see this here very, very much. So we asked the students, before you participated in the sales competition, would you like to have a job in sales? And 72.9% said, yes, we have a positive attitude towards a job in sales. So, and after they participated, 85.9% students said actually they had a very positive attitude, and which is also interesting, there was non-negative. So before, there were some negative comments, or some students had a negative attitude, but after the sales competition, non-negative, and with an increase by 13%, which actually is, again, proves what we heard already before, that the sales competition helps you to have a general more positive attitude towards a job in sales, because you perceive sales something as being really a very professional job on all levels.
I think that's a great result. It's a very strong indicator of why students should be involved in sales competitions, really.
Exactly. So that's a short overview of the slides. Of course, the research itself were much more questions, and we have much more data on this. And I think we will link this on our SEASAC homepage as well, that everyone who's interested in that can have a look in the slides we just presented, but also in the full report.
That's fantastic, Alex. As per normal, I'd like to thank you for presenting that on behalf of Polymetam that took the survey. Is that correct? Exactly. And just to stress again that there's no criticism intended in the first SEASAC. It was very successful. Thanks to everybody who took part in it. It was a fantastic experience, and evidently a great experience for the students from the outcomes of this survey and evaluation. So thank you very much to everybody who took part and everybody who was involved. And thank you, Alex, for having taken the time to explain it to us today. Fantastic.
Thank you. You're welcome.